So, hi, I'm host Derek, host of Talking with Famous People, and I'm here with Zachary, and he's going to tell us about the sad and sordid tale of his parents' divorce.
So let's see. It happened probably almost 11 years ago now, because I was about 8 years old. So almost 11 years ago now. Um, Basically, like for the longest time, my parents wouldn't talk to me about it because they use the you're enough to understand card. You know what I mean? Uh, but I think the reality was they could barely understand themselves. You know what I mean? Exactly why they every aspect of it. You know why they didn't work out. But I guess like if I had to identify what the primary issues were, I I think my dad's a little too he's an ESFJ, but his idea of look how things should be done, he's very traditional, and he kind of sets guidelines for, or at least attempted to set guidelines for everyone in the house. And I don't think my mother was very inclined to act within that model.
Now,
Um,
here are your rules. I've got good news for you. I've come up with a set of rules for you and how you shall behave.
yeah. It's kind of like a he's got a very traditional sense of like very strong internal values. So maybe he is an ESFJ after all. Now that I think about that, uh, he has just a very traditional sense of how everything should be done,
Candace does
and it's
too. I would not call those values though. I refer to that as a script. Like they have a
okay.
clear script. They think that which tells them exactly how life when life is done properly, it looks like this.
Hmm.
That's not exactly a value because a value isn't so specific to um, it's not so specific and limiting and concrete like that, you know. It's more like
Yeah.
you're perfectly capable of expressing a value in multiple ways, whereas you can't really fulfill a ESFJ script in multiple ways because their script is you do this and say that in that
Hmm.
way and make that facial expression. So
Yeah.
your dad must have been pretty controlling, is what you're saying. Is that the case?
Yep.
I forgot.
Yep. He still is. He still is. He tries to um try to like I wouldn't say he tries to tell me what to do, but it's there's definitely expectations that he has for me that aren't really in reality. For example, for some reason he wants me to he always recommends I should go into medicine, nursing. He thinks a male nurse is like really respectable, or for some reason, he he's very traditional in the sense that like here's the type of like small little traditional or I guess not value, but traditional like just weird script that he runs on. If he's opposed to men wearing socks in the house. Like that is a small aspect of him that's just like completely ridiculous. And when you have like a full script of all these like little uh this little model of how he expects everyone around him to behave.
So you're supposed to
It
men wearing socks in the house only though.
Yeah, like
It's okay for women to wear
women.
socks in the house.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's like little things like that. It's like I don't understand his reasoning at all. I don't understand where it comes from.
Little
Or
things, Zachary, that's hugely important. Do you know that I once made the mistake of sometimes trying to put sunglasses on inside a building, or sometimes I even made the mistake of failing to take my sunglasses off when I talk to other people. Now, you
I,
can imagine just how grateful I was to my ESFJ wife that she was able to point out these failings of mine and help me to learn how to do things right. I think you owe your dad a big thank you for that too. I'm sure he helped you with a lot of that stuff too.
God, it's very what causes so much the environment to be so hostile around my father is because I actively question these things, and it's like to him that's another one of the things in his paradigm. It's not to be questioned, right? So it's very restrictive, and it causes all the environment's very hostile because I uh, am in complete opposition to a lot of it. Another thing that really bothers him is I have very bad night owl tendencies. Even when where I am in college at the moment, I tend to stay up until 4 or 5 in the morning, and then I only get a few hours of sleep and sleep all day after I get home. And like it's just stuff like that that causes these. It's just a complete opposition to his world paradigm.
Right, because
I think my mom just got fed up with it pretty much.
you're out in the world mixing things up rather than out in the world fulfilling his plan.
Yeah,
And
and it's yep.
it takes a while for them to even understand why you're upset. It's like
Hmm.
because they say things like, "Well, look, I am not telling you you have to be X, Y, or Z. I'm telling you you have to be H, and you can be it X way, Y way, Z way, S
Yep.
way, but all I'm
That
saying is
is.
you have to be H, and everybody knows you have to be H. And I'm giving you all the flexibility of being H is all the way you want. What are you possibly
Hmm.
complaining about? Because I don't want to fucking
Yep.
be H. I don't like H. I don't want to be that kind of H or this kind of H or that kind of H. You're not giving me flexibility. You're fucking gaslighting me.
Yep. That's a very nice, a very well. It's very nicely put. That's exactly how it is with my father. It's just he still thinks that he gives flexibility. He still thinks that I'm free, so to speak.
Right. You have every possible way you want of doing it exactly the way he wants you to do it.
Hmm. Don't even get me started. Like if I try to argue any of his logic against them, because he has a concrete foundation of just this is how I feel, this is how it is. I'm right, you're wrong. That's it. Like it's just, and he doesn't. He'll never. He's never backed up anything he's said with any sort of logic or anything. It's just how it is, and he changes his views from time to time, and it makes me wonder where he gets his views from or how they develop necessarily. I don't know if he just picks it up from the community he's around or what, but
See,
I don't
my
know, man.
ex-wife had the benefit of being, in general, I mean, she's a good woman, and I still think very highly of her and have lots of warm thoughts about her. Number one, one thing that we had as an advantage in that relationship was she was entirely disinterested in political stuff or the sort of stuff that one might argue with me about. Right? She just didn't. It's like I'd say something political, and she'd be like, all right, okay.
Seriously, like completely indifferent.
Completely indifferent. She never. I think she did vote occasionally, but her voting. I think she voted, but it was more of like a, because this is what we do on voting day. It's a holiday. We vote on voting day. You know.
Yeah,
It
so
was like that
feels
kind of
like she's
thing.
a part of like a greater identifies a part of like the greater good, so to speak,
Right,
of
and she
just
makes a
being.
very safe middle of the road choice. She was influenced by me enough, for sure, by just hearing me to know like, okay, well, um, basically I shifted her middle of her norm towards me, you know, like so that because I sort of gaslighted her politically in the same way that she gaslighted me, um, emotionally or whatever. Because when you hear a bunch of this same shit all the time, you think, well, that's sort of the default. Everybody sort of thinks that, you kind of get that thing going on. But yeah, where we had problems was just on little details like that. On she wanted to make sure that, and this is the other thing is they want to feel secure in their knowledge of how things are going to play out. So they run afoul of any DOMs in one major area, which is We do not want that. We don't want to know how things are going to play out. We want to
Hmm.
play it by
Adapt to
ear.
it.
We want to play it by ear, you know? So,
That's where we're good at. Yeah.
yeah, and so when they and that's their whole scripting thing is they're trying to establish a setup where they're not playing things by ear, where the world is proceeding as they want it to and predict it will. And so when non-predictive vectors come into play, it causes them a great deal of consternation because there's nothing they can do with a non-predictive vector. Like if you go in and you're challenging their ideas, you're saying, I think your idea is wrong because of this and that. Those are not predictive vectors you're evaluating it on. You're not saying, I think it's wrong because it's not going to come true what you say. You're not saying, I think it's wrong because um, if if everyone were to adhere to your worldview like this, you wouldn't be happy. That would be an argument they'd understand, right? But they're not going to understand why it's even relevant when you point out, but this thing that you're saying is inconsistent with this other thing that you're saying because they can't get beyond shaping the world through other people's feelings, through managing other people's feelings. And they manage other people's feelings not directly. They don't manage your feelings. They do that too. They manage your feelings directly, but they also are very attentive to how your behavior is impacting the feelings of other parties. And if you're in their inner circle, they're gonna want to make sure you're doing that right. They're gonna want to manage you on that shit.
Hmm.
But they don't know. Like Candace kept trying to fucking shut me down
Yeah.
all the time. They don't know. They don't know. They don't actually know what they're talking about. So
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's like I still see where the foundation is for a lot of the paradigm that he holds that people should fit to. I don't understand where the foundation comes from. And my mom, on the other hand, I don't know what her type is. I suspect it's or I've kind of like asked her questions here and there that without her realizing that I'm like trying to analyze how she operates. I think she's an ISFP, but her personality overall is just very she's too uncontrolling, which is strange because like for me that works fine because it's that's where we operate well in. But for my brother, for example, he he just isn't able to. He doesn't have any guide, and he primarily stays with my mother, and it's like he doesn't know what he should do. He doesn't have like the slightest inclination towards that. It's just him kind of operating, doing whatever she says, but she doesn't really want to control him, and it creates this environment where it's like it's so I don't know. It's such a weird dynamic.
Does he know what he
But
wants to do?
mm-mm.
What I mean,
He
what I mean is in the moment. In any given moment, do he know what he wants to do at that moment?
yes, yeah. I guess he operates. I'm pretty sure he is an ESTP. I think he's an ESTP. Uh, but he's definitely not an intuitive type. Definitely not. He will not even consider anything like theory. I can't talk to him about anything really. The only
Is
all
there
he does
anyone
is
in your
just
family who is an intellect who is an whom you would identify as quote unquote an intellectual?
wait, what now?
Is there anybody in your family whom you would identify as quote unquote an intellectual?
No, I'm pretty sure they're all censors. Well, I mean, not to say that censors can't be intellectual. I mean,
No,
just
no, no.
like
I'm just. So, what kind of school did you go to? What kind of schooling did you get?
a shitty elementary school, and then I went through elementary school, then went to the public middle school here, and then I went 1 year of the high school, and then I just dropped out and then got GED and just did my own stuff for like 2 years, and then I went to college, and that's where I'm at now. That's a very strange bring up, I know, but I'm I don't understand it either, man. Me and my brother are like me and my brother have the same genetics, same environment we grew up in, but we just turned out completely different. I'm completely different from my parents, everything.
When did you when did you start finding out what you wanted to think about? And how did you find out about
Like just like philosophy and politics and psychology and stuff like that.
it? Yeah, interesting things.
Um,
Instead of boats and trips to the river.
yeah. Uh, let's see. When I first started, I think when I was in like middle school, I started like developing kind of a almost like I got kind of like depressed. It was like a weird. I wouldn't say it wasn't like some clinical depression, you know what I mean? But it was just I just felt very like not in place. I felt like there was something I needed to be doing, and I started just I guess developing kind of like existentialist thoughts. Like what is my purpose? What does it mean to be here? And it was really awkward for me because it didn't seem like any of my other peers cared or were even, it wasn't. It makes sense because it wasn't in the development stage, but it wasn't in mine either.
I have a question about your reading style. Did you read stuff big, like in big chunks or in little chunks? Like, did you read a little bit of this, a little bit of that, or did you read like I read this guy's book, then I read this guy's book, then I read this guy's book?
Little chunks, definitely little chunks. I rarely finish books. I mostly just like find an idea in like or I might hear about a school of thought, and then I'll read the Wikipedia page, and then if there's a word I don't understand, or if it links to another idea, or like another school of thought, then I'll go through that Wikipedia page, and if there's a book that gives like a good idea, I'll skim through it, I'll download the PDF file and skim through it. And that's pretty much how I've built up all of my knowledge. Just to do that.
Me too.
Like if I didn't grow up with the internet, I would probably be very uninformed.
Hey, Lacey, you need to shut up right now. Look, the thing is, I read plenty of books and did traditional school. I did grow up before the internet, but the internet came in relatively not super long, not super late in my life, but I learned way more just reading random shit on the internet than I ever learned in school, for sure. I retain it a lot better because I'm either looking for it out of interest, or I might actually occasionally be researching stuff for a specific purpose. Like, I need to find out, like sometimes when I'm making these videos and I'm trying to answer somebody's question, I want the video to, if I do the slides videos, then I'll research something to make sure I got it right for the slides, or at least to be reminded of something I don't remember or something like that. But usually when I'm Googling shit, no matter what the original cause was, the rabbit hole has left any relevance to that original cause long, long ago,
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you learn the best shit, right? That's where you learn the best shit.
Yep, it definitely. It's very easy to. You start out with one just. I guess like I use Wikipedia a lot. That's
Me too.
like
It's fantastic. It's the best.
Mm-hmm.
What's funny is in debate you really can't cite Wikipedia directly. I'm gonna pee over here, and anyway, so I'll still be able to hear you even though I'm not gonna be in camera. But Wikipedia in debate, people don't want to cite it because they say, oh, it's too subject to what are called source indicts, which are when you basically say your source isn't reliable enough. But and I stick with that general approach because I don't want to fucking buck the trend to the cost of having my kids lose rounds because of it. But really, I want to run like a theory argument that says, bullshit, Wikipedia is more reliable than your source because Wikipedia is group source, not individual source.
That's a good way to put it.
So, your parents got divorced when you were 8. How did you experience it? As a joyful romp in the park?
I pretty much I didn't get along with my brother very well when I was younger, and my mom always had to work because she was a single mom there. So pretty much all throughout my adolescence was I spent a lot of time to myself, and I throughout the younger years, I guess I was around 8 or so, probably like 8 through 11. I spend a lot of time kind of like creating like imaginary worlds and creating like kind of it sounds like kind of weird, but it's a lot more common than you would think. I would argue.
Oh, I know
Just
exactly
like
what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about. But go ahead,
yeah,
tell
just
me more about it.
well, I would I would just kind of I would kind of create, I guess, metaphysical is the metaphysical word again. Metaphysical like entities in my life, and just kind of like I guess they served as like the interaction that I was missing out on, and I would kind of interact with different aspects of my own personality through that. So that's mostly what I spent my adolescence doing. When I got about 12 or 13 or so, I started doing I
But
started
stop.
doing a lot of art. I
Stop,
would
stop,
draw
stop.
and
Hold on.
oh,
I want to go back to that last thing you said. Okay, that is not what I did not know what you were talking about. When I said I know what you're talking about, no, I was talking about something different. That thing you're talking about is very interesting. You say you were engaged in communications with different aspects of your own personality, right?
mhm.
And I certainly
Well,
do. I do know what that feels like. 'Cause I do that in certain ways as well. But I want to hear how that manifests in your head. Like, is it a conversation? Is it your voice from three different perspectives? Is it when you're a little kid? Is it you're pretending and you're imagining that you're talking to blah blah blah, and then you're sort
yeah,
of
that's what it would be.
okay.
The latter there. Yeah. And then as I get older, I feel like as I got older, it kind of internalized. I don't identify with multiple. I don't have multiple personality disorder or
Right, right.
anything, but there's definitely like I feel like it's kind of a lot of the entities I feel have that kind of self talk in their head of just is this right? Is this logical all the time? What it's kind of viewing everything in at multiple dimensions. I don't know if that's a result of all of the make believe play I did when I was younger, or if that just is just something that came along. I don't know, but
But the
but
make believe
yeah.
shit is absolutely right on the money. It's like the amount of pretending I did as a little kid is astonishing. And then when I stopped pretending, I started reading my Swords and Dragons books, right? So then I would,
Yeah.
right? So after I had finished playing around in the backyard pretending, then I'd read a book, which was basically pretending. And then you know, if I wasn't talking to somebody else, I was more or less pretending when I was a kid about something. And I had complicated things I would pretend about, like I'd set up I set up these sort of like systems. Okay, well, so you'll in this story, like these people will be over there, and they'll be really happy if you do this, and then those people will be over there, and they'll be upset if somebody does that, and those people will be over there, and like it set up little scenarios like that, and then I'd come and solve the problem, right? I'd be like, here I am, I'm here to
Yeah.
solve the problem. The other thing I did when I was just walking around having narratives in my head all the time was I would constantly be talking, explaining things because I was being interviewed on a television show, and then I'd be explaining things to everybody. This was my like childhood way of talking about things with myself, even. There's just sort of it made it so much more. It was only of any value to have a conversation provided there was somebody else there, so that we had to put somebody else there because we're FE. So we just
Yeah. Yeah.
pretend them in there. Well, we just pretend you into existence then.
Hmm. And it's weird because even though it's like an artificial vessel of sorts, it helps develop your own language and your empathy skills because you're interacting with aspects of yourself. That's project into reality, and not only are you understanding yourself better, but you're understanding the dynamics of language and etc. better. At least that's how I see it. That's how I rationalize it.
Right. I actually remember. I don't remember the exact moment, but I remember clearly when I noticed or noted to myself that I was not able or willing to pretend certain kinds of things anymore because they were inconsistent with other things. Like when I was really little, I had a lot of slavery fantasies where I had slaves, like there were slaves in my house and they
It's
did
the
whatever I
white
told
guilt.
them, right? And then at a certain point when I was fairly young still, that became too inconsistent with other parts of the story. I couldn't get past. I was no longer able to enjoy the slavery. It's like the benefits of slavery. You have to be pretty oblivious to enjoy the benefits of slavery, right? So
Yeah.
it only lasts for a little while when you're young, when you have slaves. And how do you encounter the notion of slaves in the first place? Is a curious one.
That's an interesting thing. Like because I mean, I presume you weren't completely exposed to the idea of slavery or whatnot yet, so it's just kind of like you have like an inclination to have your imaginary like entities working under you and whatnot.
Right. Yeah. Or serving your interests and being happy is the other thing. Is all my slaves were very happy to serve me.
Yeah, none of them are upset. Yeah.
that's, that's where the inconsistency eventually came in. Yeah, I was either in my pretending I was making happiness by when I was older, making happiness by pretending to solve problems, basically. But when I was little, I was just making happiness by, and now you can be around me and do what I want. And see how happy that makes you? Because I hadn't yet come to terms with the fact that that wasn't enough in life. That you couldn't just be like, and now you get to do what I want, and that'll make you happy. Because not everybody's your mom.
Yeah, it was that. I guess it's that egocentrism that it kind of when you're younger, it's more evident, and then as you get older, it kind of assimilates into your personality, and then your empathy becomes fully developed.
I still self talk using the plural pronoun we rather than I in general.
Same. I think that's an FE thing, honestly.
Is it?
At least I would suspect it would be, but I don't know.
Do you go, all right, let's get up and let's go to class now. And let's.
Yep,
Come
yep.
on, guys. Come on, other Erics.
My uncle is. I'm pretty sure he's an ISFJ, and uh, he always says "we" no matter what. Like, we'll see you soon when he's like leaving or something, and it's just like, who's we? You know?
That's a southern thing, too, though. They do that in the South. Will We'll see y'all, right? They're like that group
Yeah,
names more in the South, I think.
yeah. So you really wouldn't guess I'm from the South then if I because
I,
yeah, I'm from East Kentucky, like Appalachia, like
I would totally guess
hardcore
it
South.
over time, but see, this is how not focused on that shit I am. It's just like, for example, I never notice when somebody gets a new haircut,
Same. I never noticed that shit.
and they go, "Well," I'm like, "Well, hi, how are you doing?"
That's a
Yes, those are your two hands. No, with their pointy heads. That's your head. Yes, on top of it. Oh, you got a haircut. I've had this conversation about 40,000 times in my life. Thanks for letting me know. I'm sorry I didn't notice. I recognize now how important it was that I noticed.
yeah. I just had a really bad issue of I would every time I got new clothes I would leave the tags on them for months and not even notice and just when I'm sometimes I'm just so oblivious to like the smallest little the details like that.
Unless it touched your skin, then you gotta get rid of it right away. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
a couple of things. One, Zachary, I have this. I have a lot of friends your age, right? Which is really strange. And normally, 44-year-old men do not have a lot of 18-year-old friends, but I totally do because I've got my ex debaters. I've got random and then like random people like you on the internet who talk to me. Abraham, my right hand guy, is 18 as well because at least with at least you guys are open. You're more open. Adults are like by what I mean adults. I mean, see, I really don't self-identify exactly as an adult per se because to be self-identified as an adult is to really take ownership of your responsibilities in a way that I just can't seem to do. I keep trying to defer them
Hmm.
on other people. What are your thoughts about maturity, age, and what I think might be an increasing bridging of any gaps between generations?
I definitely noticed the bridging of gaps between generations in my own behavior. A lot of my I feel like I interact more with the older generations than I do with the younger. Um, but I guess let's see if I had to say what the cause of that was.
I didn't ask you what the cause of it was, although that's one possible angle. Possible angles you could take to evaluate this particular question could be: do you feel as though there are disconnects, for example, between older and younger people over technology? Is one possible way to frame it, because our technology shapes who we are. Delilah, um, my daughter, she the way she is with a phone, it's an extension of herself in a way that the phone is definitely not for me. So I mean, and that's not just like a piece of technology. It's like it influences who you are a little bit. That's one framework you could do. You could do a framework that says uh, differing values, that older generation prioritizes X, but that priority is probably a bad priority, or that younger generation is over prioritizing this, but they should be more like the older generation, or here's where the values coincide, or here's where the values used to be different, but now they're coinciding more. That kind of shit.
I uh, I think I think the older generations.
Wait, stop,
No,
stop. We're at 30 minutes. I've only got 3 minutes left before this auto stops, so I'm gonna stop it and start it again.